All right, it's Dina Sayegh Doll with my Interviewing the Interviewer segment. Brett Meiselas is my next subject, co-founder of the MeidasTouch Network. So excited for you to take the time to let me ask you all these questions, Brett. You and I don't get a chance to talk as much, at least like on air. So this is really fun for me.
Subject or victim, Dina? I'm really excited to speak with you. I think this is a really cool thing you're doing. And I think we're going to be able to share with this community some really new things that they've never heard before. So I think it's super cool.
Yeah, well, like I said, I was excited to do this. And you can clarify, you didn't get the questions in advance.
No questions in advance. I have not been briefed. We just hopped on. Anything could happen, folks. Anything could happen.
Yeah, exactly. We're breaking news here. So I want to start in the beginning. And I think that your pin on your X is a great place to start. So you say in your pinned tweet or whatever you want to call it now that it's X. And it says, I had no idea what would happen when I made this. I was scared for our country. I had an idea and I went ahead and put together this video. We posted it, I made lunch, and when I came back to my phone, I was flooded with notifications. My life basically changed in that moment. And so tell us a little bit, did that ad come before your MeidasTouch podcast, the Brothers podcast, is maybe people call it as familiar, or was it happening at the same time? Tell us a little bit about that.
Way before the MeidasTouch podcast. This was like, MeidasTouch wasn't even like a thing when we made this. We kind of made MeidasTouch, into this because of this ad. Ultimately, it was kind of it had the cascading effect of kind of creating MeidasTouch and the vision as to what it is today, through the evolution of the past few years. But basically, yeah, I mean, in the beginning, Jordy, Ben, and myself, we were all working separate jobs. Ben, in his legal career, Jordy was working at a marketing firm out of New York and doing things for some high profile brands. And I was working at the time for Ice Cube's a TV and film production company. And before that, I had worked at the Ellen Show for a little over 5 years, running the editing for their digital department. And so it was COVID time. So we were all working from home. And when everybody was home, what was everybody doing during that COVID time? We were watching those press conferences of Donald Trump every single day. And what was he doing? Just spouting BS every day. 15 cases going down to 0. It's going away like a miracle. And we just kept seeing these images every day. And then we were going to the stores and we just saw panic in the stores and empty shelves and no toilet paper and rationing items and canned goods. And it was a scary time. And so my brothers and I were constantly speaking to each other, as we always do. And at a certain point, we were like, okay, we need to fight back against this stupidity that we're seeing, because people are going to die. We saw how serious it was in Europe and in Asia, and we saw how unseriously that Donald Trump was taking it here. And so we all came together and we kind of had a let's go sort of moment where we came together and we said, okay, we have to do something about what is going on, because this is absolutely crazy. So the brothers and I got together on a group text, and we still run our whole business via group text on as you know, via like iMessage and things. And so we said, hey, if we started a website where we could just get our thoughts out and fight back against this craziness that we're seeing, would we all commit X amount of hours a day to taking this seriously? Because we all had jobs, but we were home. So we had a little bit more flexibility and freedom. But would you be interested in doing that? But I was the guy who had to make the website. So I said, I'm only going to make this website if everybody is serious about doing this. And without skipping a beat, Ben and Jordan said, absolutely, let's do it. We kind of thought, okay, what do we call it? We need to call this thing something. What do we call it? And Jordy, our marketing guru here, came up with MeidasTouch, which is a combination of our last names, Meiselas, and our mother's maiden name, Golden. So Midas, the Golden Touch. And so we combined those two things together in Midas. We thought it was an interesting fit, and we just started running with it. And we posted that video, which was our first kind of political ad. And like I said in my pinned tweet, posted it. It went live. I kind of replied with the tweet to other kind of big names at the time. And remember, Twitter was very different back then compared to what it is now. Yeah. But I replied to, other big names in the space, people like George Conway, people like that. And I think some of those people saw it and liked it when I replied with it to them. They retweeted it. And so I literally put my phone down, not because I wasn't even online all that much. I put my phone down, I ate lunch, I came back, my phone was just blowing up. And I was like, what the heck just happened? And what we realized as brothers was, okay, this seems to be the void in the market. This seems to be the void in politics. People aren't speaking back to the craziness that we're seeing with clarity. So let's focus on videos and let's package these videos up, whether they're 15 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minute, make them kind of cinematic, make them resonate with people, and maybe we can make a difference. And the rest is history.
And I think that's what's so unique about MeidasTouch is you break through the noise. You break through the noise in a way nobody else does. There's a lot of noise out there. There's a lot of content out there. And you can argue that's Trump's one claim to fame, right? Is he's good at breaking through the noise. And we haven't had that Democrat voice we're starting to get some younger people that are good at it, but you guys have been good at that from the start. I mean, that ad, that's how my husband found you guys. We knew Ben.
Day one.
Yeah, day one. We knew you guys from the law firm, and he saw that ad. And I was doing true crime stuff at the time. He's like, oh, look what they're doing. So it broke through the noise. There was so much content out there. And that is something that you bring specifically to the table, because as much as it's important to have good content, and I do think MeidasTouch has good content, delves deeply into topics in the way the mainstream media does it, if you aren't packaging in a way that's visually going to catch, somebody who's got a ton of stuff coming their way, you might as well have not said anything. I was talking to somebody who was in they weren't in the political space, but they were an executive at another YouTube channel. And when he heard that I worked for MeidasTouch, that was the thing he said. He said, they have a good video editor. That was his one comment. Not good commentators, but you have a good video editor. But because he saw like the importance of having it packaged in a way. We're in a visual world, Yeah. There's a reason why the Christie gnomes out there are playing dress up, right? Because it's a visual world and it breaks through in a way that we obviously don't care about, but that MAGA world, we have to do our version. Democrats are good at having policies, but not breaking through. I want to play another early ad that you created that, frankly, I think is just as relevant today as when you made it 4 years ago. When did you make this in relation to your very first ad? Was this like a few weeks later?
I think this is maybe like a week or two later. It wasn't that much. It wasn't that much later. It was pretty soon
so a
after.
week or two later. Okay, so let's play that. And like I said, it's crazy how relevant it still is.
Who has heard the poem called The Snake?
My father gave me a small loan of $1 million.
Well-documented and severe financial downturn in the past year.
You know about sexual predators and things like that. I mean,
you are one.
All right.
And it's more than anger, it's hatred.
They're bringing drugs, they're bringing crime, they're rapists. Down the path, along the lake, a tender-hearted woman saw a poor, half-frozen snake.
You'll absolutely love Trump steaks.
More than 150 former students allege Trump University was a fraud.
Persistently illegal conduct at the president's charity.
Take me in, oh tender woman. Take me in, for heaven's sake. Take me in, oh tender woman. Sighed the vicious.
Would you denounce what happened in 2016?
President Putin was extremely strong and powerful in his denial today.
He withheld the money, he withheld the meeting, used it to coerce Ukraine to do these political investigations.
The American embassy in Baghdad under siege.
She stroked his pretty skin again and held him tight.
The Chinese government awarded Ivanka Trump's brand 7 new trademarks.
They're a pack of grifters. His campaign manager's got 2 condos, a Ferrari, a yacht. They're all just fleecing the campaign.
That snake gave her a vicious bite. The coronavirus. This is their new hoax.
The U.S. now leading the world in deaths.
No, I don't take responsibility at all.
This is a great success story.
I have saved you, cried the woman. And you've bitten me, heavens why? You know your bite is poisonous, and now I'm going to die.
We want to terminate healthcare. And then I see the disinfectant.
Shut up, silly woman, said the reptile with a grin. You knew damn well I was a snake. before you took me in.
Yeah, it's so powerful. Like so many years later, the corruption has gotten even worse.
Yeah. I'll say this. It could have been made last week, other than the fact that Donald Trump is far more coherent in those clips than he is today. You could really see the cognitive decline since then. But, I think the interesting thing in making a video like that and the other videos and why they broke through is because we weren't in politics at all. I mean, like I said before, I was working for a daytime talk show where my job was to take footage, often that wasn't that exciting, and package it up into exciting 2-minute, 3-minute, 5-minute packages and make sure that it was done very quickly so that it would get out during a show that was recorded sometimes as early as 1 p.m. or 2 p.m. So the turnaround, the churn there, the pressure that you had in that environment actually really helped with this, oddly enough, even though it was something totally different. Also, because we didn't come from the political space whatsoever, had no money starting this thing up, zero investment, still have zero investments at all, 100% people powered. We had to figure out a way, how do we make a political ad? What does that even mean? And so one of the things that we realized quickly with Donald Trump, and this applies to this day, is that he is the ultimate in projection. He's got a psychological thing and it's like pervasive throughout all of MAGA, where all they do is project. They are constantly saying out loud things about their opponents that are really about themselves. So when Donald Trump was reading the story of the snake on the campaign trail, I couldn't help but say he's describing himself. He is the snake. He is the snake that America is letting in. And once I kind of made that connection, I think I ran to my computer. I don't even think I told the brothers that I was making that at the time. Yeah. I think I just ran to my computer, made it. Oddly enough, it's one of the most intensive work-wise pieces that we've made, but it probably took me one of the quickest to make because I just was in the zone. And we put all those clips together. I remember sending it to the guys, Jordy and Ben, and they were like, holy crap. And then from there, like a ball of clay, we kind of refined it and adjusted the titles and stuff. But yeah, and then that one had a lot of impact, and that one went, super viral as well, and really made an impact and helped define the style of a MeidasTouch video early on, which was basically, instead of using a voiceover that had become so ubiquitous and corny in ads, Donald Trump says that, instead of that, let's use their own words, but let's flip them and use it against them. And that became kind of a signature of the MeidasTouch style.
Oh my gosh, I love that, because they do actually give you so much content if you're willing to just use it, right?
All the time, yeah.
He is like this reality TV person, right? That people are giving way too much power to, and you did a recent, social media post kind of calling out Chuck Schumer's post that he made about the tariffs, and they were really awful. You're driving to work, your gas prices are up, you're going to the Super Bowl, you're walking over. And, the MeidasTouch in general, and I don't think I've ever really seen you criticize a Democrat before, right? I could see that you, especially as the video editor, as the person who's in charge of the MeidasTouch social media platform, was pained to see how bad it was. Yeah. It's easy to criticize them as tariffs. And here in Meidas, what you posted was how America was getting booed by Canada, right? It was much easier for you to criticize, the criticisms of Trump's tariffs were just you could pick him up off the field, right? But yeah, he seemed to be making it so difficult he couldn't even do it in a post. And so I think that a lot of us realize, and maybe the party realizes too, that there's this need to reach people where they're getting their news, right? And I think there's this feeling that you cannot be entertaining, right? If the Democrats are, we have to tell people about how good unions are, but if we do it in an entertaining way, then maybe we are diluting our seriousness, right? There seems to be an inability to say, we are in the age of entertainment. Why can't we talk about unions in a way to reach people and cut through the noise? So can you just speak to what that moment, First of all, do you think the Chuck Schumers of the world can change, or do we just need the younger generation? Or like, how do they? The party has a problem, which MeidasTouch does it easily, but they have a problem being willing or able to tell people what they're doing in a way people want to hear.
Yeah, and maybe I shouldn't tweet as much. I think I'm learning from this. but
Really?
what I was getting at though is that there are so many incredible messengers out there, and I think those people need to be put front and center. As we see people who really understand what people are going through right now, and I think of people like Wes Moore, or Jasmine Crockett, or AOC, or Gavin Newsom, or even Tim Kaine. I mean, there are a lot of people out there who have been very effective in understanding the stakes of the moment that we are in, and it is more important than ever that these messages are getting out and that they're getting out effectively. And yes, you could be entertaining while you do it. You could do various stunts or whatever, but you don't want to be corny, and you don't want to look like weak while you're doing it as well. And you want to meet the moment. And I think the moment that we're in right now is we are watching an unelected bureaucrat, billionaire oligarch in the form of Elon Musk and his billionaire buddy, Donald Trump, raid our government from the inside and destroy our government from the inside. And so when your message is your guacamole is going to cost 20 cents more because of Donald Trump, I just don't think that meets the moment of these people are doing a coup inside our government, and we need to be fighting back. And also, here's how we are fighting back. Here are the lawsuits we are filing. Here are the actions we are taking. Here's how we plan on stopping them. I think people want action. I think people want to be motivated. And I think that's just incredibly important to have that message be refined and to have the right messengers that are out there. I mean, people often criticize Democratic messaging, and there's certainly a lot to be said about that. But there are also a lot of incredible messengers. Let's use them. Let's elevate them. I think it's important. And I don't say that as, somebody who votes for Democrats nearly all the time. I say that as somebody who values our democracy and wants everybody. I want like our strongest troops out there on the front lines, right? I want the strongest people out there to defend our democracy of any party. If you're pro-democracy, if you're independent, if you're a Republican, I don't care. I want you out there. I want you defending our system right now because it is being raided, it is being destroyed, and we need people to speak in the terms that meet the current moment that we are in, because none of this is normal that we are witnessing as we see Elon Musk go on Twitter and say, I've deleted the Consumer Financial Bureau. He says, I've deleted the Department of Education. These are illegal moves. So how are we going to respond to them? How are you going to respond to them as legislators? And talking about your guacamole is going to cost 20 cents more for the Super Bowl just wasn't super an inspiring message to me when we are seeing our government be stripped away from us by these people who would much rather be aligned with autocrats across the world, whether it's Maduro or Viktor Orban or Vladimir Putin or you name it. And so we need the urgency, right? And we be able to identify Donald Trump's distractions, and we need to be able to also target the things that are the most important. And I understand it's hard. He throws so much crap out and tries to see what sticks, but we need a coordinated message out there. You need an opposition party. And I think one of the things that folks have been a little upset with, at least in the beginning after the election, was that a lot of the leadership, they were kind of non-existent. Nobody really saw who's going to step up. Who is the leader of the party? It doesn't seem like it's President Biden anymore. Doesn't seem like it's Kamala Harris. It's not Chuck Schumer. Like, who are the leaders out there? Who's going to step up? And I think people are looking for that. People are looking for people who are going to stand by them and say, I am going to stand strong to my values. And I don't think that means, oh, the Republicans won, so what we have to do now is become way more like them, and we need to sign off on these bills that are, very extreme, and we need to rubber stamp these nominees. I think they want fighters. I think they want people who stand by their values, and that's really above all, everything that we do at MeidasTouch, it's not through any sort of partisan or party lens. We approach everything, and I mean everything, through the lens of trying to do what's best for the democracy, And we want people who, it's all about our values at the end of the day, and we want people who meet our values. And if the folks, the Democratic Party, are going to meet our values, great, we support you. If they're not, we're going to find people who we're going to, try to elevate and support, because our country is being ripped away from us.
I think people are desperate for this people to meet this moment. And I do feel like, Midas is starting to do it. In terms of values, Von Filipowski talked about your values, the Midas Touch Boys. He's called you guys extremely hardworking, dedicated, principled, and fearless. And I think those are the values that people want and are desperate for right now. And I do think that you guys put that at the center. And you particular are a wealth of knowledge, Brett. You run by running the Midas Touch social medias. I have to say, I look now to those posts when the breaking news events happen, because you guys are really good about not reporting rumors, things that are like sometimes cable news will just repeat something somebody said, right? You're really good about how you even are doing your reporting, not just how clever you are in your words, which you really are. That's a talent all in itself. I'm not a good social media poster person. I'm more of a long talker. So that's a talent in itself. You're very good at your words and your posts, but also just knowing when to post, what to post. And also it's a nonstop job. Your feed is going all the time. And you can tell in your brother's podcast when you contribute, you back it up. You've got your knowledge of all of this is really deep.
Well, thank you. Yeah, well, we follow the news all day. We have an incredible research team here at MeidasTouch, a great editorial staff that's led by Ron Filipkowski, who does such an incredible job. And yeah, I think it's important that we are facts first when we do this reporting. And I think it's important that we are also getting the message out in as many places as possible. And this was a key thing to the MeidasTouch operation when we started, when we had 0 followers anywhere. But this was the very beginning of 2020, March 2020, and in one of the first weeks, we said, okay, we need to start a TikTok account. I don't know if I could take you back to March 2020. TikTok was viewed as like a joke back in 2020. People made fun of it. It used to be Musical.ly. People were like, oh, that's the app for dancing and tweens. And oh, you guys are going on that. I was like, yeah, no, we're going to be everywhere that people are using apps because our message needs to get everywhere. And so that's been a big part of it. And we've also never really believed in kind of quotas or timing or, timing the market. People always ask us, so is a social media post better to happen at 6 a.m. or 10 a.m. or is it better at noon or at night? And I'm just like, don't overthink it. Just post it. All these apps have algorithms. It's going to ultimately reach the people it's going to reach, and it will perform the way it's going to perform. Whether that video, it might be a little different if it's a breaking news story. That's, a very fresh story. But other than that, don't worry about those things. Just worry, do I have the right information? And then work to get it out there and try to remove the hierarchy that exists in so many organizations. And I think one of the issues that big bloated corporations have, that big party infrastructures have, is that they have to run every post up the ladder a billion times and then back down and then back up for the final approval. I've dealt with this working at various organizations. It's frustrating. It's very frustrating. But to have, me, Ben, and Jordy just be able to say, do it, post it, do it, with minimal oversight. It's liberating, and it's also just the way that social media works right now. Frankly, it's a strategy that I think Trump has perfected, and it's why Democrats are often flat-footed to respond to his comments, because I don't think he's running his stuff through any approval process. I think he's just firing things off or telling his person to type what he says. And so, there has to be a level of trust in an organization to get messages out, and there has to be a streamlined process, because, if you're not reaching people and you're not being timely, then there's kind of no point to what you're doing,
I think what you said about posting on TikTok, even if people thought it was just a dance, I feel like that's respecting the audience. Instead of saying, I'm only going to post on a platform that I think is got a certain cachet, let's say, right? It's about meeting the person where they're at, which I think is a matter of respect, and why so much of the mainstream media or the politicians who just appear on mainstream media are kind of falling flat because people aren't going there anymore. You got to respect where people are going, where they want to go.
And I got to give them credit too on that note, because I will say, and I'll say better late than never. But in the wake of the election, when a lot of the commentary was that politicians need to be seeking out these podcasts and going on alternative forms of media, because they hadn't done that prior to the election. They ran a little scared. We've noticed the big uptick in offices of like Democrat senators, governors, Congress people reaching out to us and saying, so-and-so wants to come on your show. So I do have to give them credit now for making the changes. Now we could always do more, but I have noticed a difference in the way that they're viewing the media, and they're finally taking what we are doing here seriously, which I think is important. I mean, we are reaching on any given 48-hour period anywhere from 25 to 30 million people on our YouTube channel. And that's just our YouTube channel. I mean, you add our TikTok, you add our podcast, you add all that, it's tens of millions, about hundreds of millions of people every few days that are being reached with this platform. And so you could go and you could do your CNN hit in front of 100,000 people. It's cute, it's good. or you could come to us and we know we'll have a major platform that's going to get this stuff out. That was something that I think Trump and JD Vance and those Republicans knew leading up to the election. Now Democrats seem to be learning that lesson, which is great. And because like you said, you can't have disdain for your audience. And if the audience is going to certain places, you always need to meet them where they are.
Yes. And speaking of that, Ben and all of you had a chance to interview President Biden. And I think we have a picture of you and him in the Oval Office. Okay, amazing. Did you ever think your life would bring you to the Oval Office? What was that moment like?
And no, absolutely not. It's been the craziest few years. It was unimaginable for that to happen. I still can't believe it happened. I still can't believe I've ever been invited to the White House. But it's cool, and it shows, the White House, their digital strategy team, I think was way ahead of the curve. I don't think they got nearly enough credit that they deserve, because they knew early on that they wanted to reach out to digital creators. You see the Trump administration doing that right now with their digital creators. Honestly, they kind of, I think, learned that from the Biden administration doing that, and now they're doing it with their people. But no, I could have never ever imagined it. I mean, like we started this in our living rooms, on an iMessage chat and on a phone call, and with no real experience of any sort in politics, no connections to politics whatsoever. Like we were like, we need to get our message out. Let's do this. So to go from like that Reagan video that I edited, in my living room on my little laptop at the time, to being in the Oval Office, it's just it's been a stunning few years. And that interview with President Biden was definitely the highlight of my career, of my life. I mean, it was just super incredible. He was very open, very engaging, nothing off limits. And when we wrapped the interview with him, we're still talking to him, but he's once you get President Biden started on speaking, he wants to talk.
That's awesome. I love that.
The Secret Service needs to stop him. Like, and it was funny at the time. I'm not sure if I've ever even told anybody this before. But the Secret Service was like, Mr. President, we got another group actually coming into this area, so we actually got to get a move on. And he was in the middle of talking to us, and President Biden looks at them and he's like, tell him to wait.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh my gosh.
And then he looked at us and he goes, I'm at the end of my term. It's time for me to rebel. It was very funny. And then he looks at us and he pointed at us and he goes, you guys ever been in the Oval before? And I was like, no, no, Mr. President. He goes, come with me. And, and then we walk from the Roosevelt Room in the White House, the historic Roosevelt Room. And right behind the Roosevelt Room is the Oval Office. We walk in and it's like a movie, like bright, lightly, lit, like straight out of the West Wing, all of a sudden, like the show, it feels like you're on a TV show, and you walk in and you're just there, and he shows us around, he points to things, he tells us some stories, took the photo, and it was just, it was awesome. And we're super proud of that interview. We viewed it as being like a sort of time capsule of the end of President Biden's term, kind of getting him on the record of things he maybe wasn't able to say on other mainstream interviews or TV networks or you have it. And we wanted to make a piece with the President Biden interview that would stand the test of time. And so we made sure we didn't want to ask questions that we knew would be irrelevant by the end of the week. Like a lot of people were like, ask about the UFOs. Is anybody talking about UFOs now? I'm happy we didn't ask about the UFOs. But we wanted to ask things that were more legacy based and things that were really about what his presidency was about. And so I'm really proud of the interview. Ben did such an incredible job, and President Biden was so generous with his time, and it was super cool.
Oh my gosh. You could just like close up shop and be happy after something like that. That is a really cool life moment for sure. Something that you could check off your bucket list that you probably never knew was on your bucket list, right?
Exactly.
Well, the other thing that kind of has happened since then, just right the other day, is the MeidasTouch Brothers podcast became #1 in news, #2 overall, huge, surpassing Joe Rogan, a huge accomplishment. And, speaking of kind of what you talked about, your group text in the beginning, I'm not surprised because you guys are yourselves on that podcast like you are in the group text. The three of you are so positive. You are obviously very hardworking. I mean, you're like the structure behind Meidas. You and I text a lot because it's like we're trying to figure out the videos and the timing and the posting. And you're like so responsive, even though I know you got tons going on. And it's like, you're like the structure and the skeleton that you do to make this thing going is so impressive. But also there's so much positivity on those texts that you have back. Oh, thank you, Dina. And this is great. And, it just makes me want to contribute more, honestly. It's just so grateful to be part of this community. But like you guys have such positive energy behind the scene. And I think that comes out also, and probably why, you've got your knowledge, your skills, and then you also just are good people. Like you're so nice. I think that's an underrated value, especially in this Trump era. But I think people need that and want that. And I think that's part of your success.
Well, I appreciate that. And by the way, like it goes without saying, but we're so grateful for all your contributions to the network, and people love you at the network. And I think one of the important things that we realized when we started, because at first we all had other jobs, and we were afraid of like being political in public, right? Like, who knows what's going to happen? And so, for the first like few weeks, we were a little like, this is, when people would ask at our jobs, like, who is this thing that keeps appearing on my feed that you keep posting? I'd be like, oh, that's my brother Jordy's company. And Jordy would tell people, oh, that's my brother Ben's company. And we'd all kind of be pointing at each other to try to, but at a certain point we realized, like, if we're going to be able to, if we want to be really mobilize people need to know who's behind it. Right. Like if we just called ourselves the Democracy Group and was for a faceless organization that nobody knew, like, how could you trust anybody like that? But we were like, let's lead with our values. Let's share people, our lives, our experiences, our beliefs. And if people like us, great. If people don't like us, that's fine too. Like, but at least we're being open and transparent with folks. And, I think that flows into all of our work that we do, including the podcast. Everybody's added on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, by the way, keep us at #1. But I think anybody could be talking politics on a podcast. There's a billion podcasts out there, right? And so you got to think, what's the thing that separates you? And it's usually you. Like it's you, it's your experience, it's your background. That's why people are tuning in. And so for us with the Brother podcast, I think, you get the news, which isn't always great, especially right now. You get our commentary and analysis, which I like to think is unique and different from what you're seeing on the cable networks and the other corporate media. And then you get me making fun of Jordy. You get you get us being brothers. You get an insight into our lives, and I think that's actually an important aspect that makes the show a bit more relatable than if it was just like, and today this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. You gotta have something, and also the community. And this was something very important to Jordy, especially early on, that we would constantly be in touch with our community, who has kind of named themselves the Meidas Mighty and developed into this community of, 4 or 5 million strong of people who watch MeidasTouch, who share our content. A lot of them even put their names in their Blue Sky accounts or Twitter accounts or whatever as, Midas and their name. They view Midas as part of their identity, and they are kind of really the secret weapon of Midas, is having that community, having people who care, who are willing to get off the sidelines, even if it's just to write a comment or share a video or let a friend or family member know. And I just don't think anything else exists in the world like this community that has built kind of around what we're doing.
I 100% agree. Knew you were going to say that. And so I'm having my last questions be from the Meidas Mighty, including one that has Midas in the name. Shout out. Got these questions from Blue Sky. Midas Rami says he's been watching the videos since 2020. He lives in a blue dot in a red state. And he wants to know whether or not, well, there's a funny one and then there's a serious one. I'll do the serious one first. Well, maybe not funny, but Trump funny, I guess. So what is the strategy? What is your strategy to take over social media and maybe TV stations? Do you have a strategy?
No, it's really just to keep going. Like I said, a lot of people try to overthink things. And especially in the beginning of MeidasTouch, like when we started getting attention, a lot of people would reach out to us with their ideas and they'd say, oh, we have this painting, or we have this video, or we have this thing we want to do, but we need investors and we need an editor and we want to run it through a few test groups before we see. And, I'll tell you, of the dozens of people who came to us like that, I've never seen one of those go public once. And maybe they did and just no one's seen them. But I think people overthink them and they get in this analysis paralysis of like, I need to do this. I need to do this. No, just work, right? And everybody could have a voice. I'm telling you, if our platform could take off, like three brothers who at the time, I think I had 100 followers on Twitter when I posted a video and everything, that's come from then, like anybody could do it. If the work is right, the cream will always race to the top. People always, see your talent. So in the social media age, content is king. Make sure to keep putting out content. That's what we're going to do. We've thought about linear cable TV for Midas. I think there's an interesting idea to be had in bringing together unapologetically pro-democracy voices. We spoke to like Jim Acosta the other day. I think of him when, I think of stuff like this, but bringing together people who are unafraid to fight back against what the corporate media is doing and fight back against what MAGA is in an unapologetic way. I think there probably is room for that does it differently than anybody else is doing. But at the same time, so many of those stations are coming to where they're trying to meet us where we are right now, because the dynamics are shifting in viewership and whatnot. And so it's a thought we have. We haven't explored it in any serious way, but it's always in the back of our minds that if people think a MeidasTouch cable or satellite station would be great, you can let us know in the comments. Maybe we'll think about it a little more.
Okay, cool. And the second question, which I really shouldn't have laughed at, but like in this Trump world, are you thinking about immigrating to another country if, this is the Trump era? But nothing planned, nothing in the works.
No, I think it's important that we stay true to our values. I think it's important that we are unapologetic with our work and that we continue to be a check on this administration. And despite all the threats that Donald Trump makes, despite all the threats he made to, he got ABC to submit. We don't know what CBS and Paramount are going to do with this other 60 Minutes lawsuit. We're never going to bend. We're never going to buckle. We are never going to back down. And so Donald Trump will have to rip this microphone out of my hands. He will have to send his FBI to get me out of this place before I stop or leave this place. I care about the country too much, and I hope that everybody cares about the country, as much. And I know times are scary, but we have no choice but to fight back. This isn't the America as I know it, and I'm willing to, go to the end to try to right what is going on right now.
And then one more question from Jackie, also on Blue Sky, and then we will definitely wrap it up. She's from Wisconsin. She's a business intelligence analyst, also has been watching you guys for several years. She's really worried about what Elon Musk is doing, wants to know what you think about that, and also wants to know if there's any follow-up. Have you heard back about your request to the White House to be able to be one of the independent media? I know you MeidasTouch applied. She wants to know if you've heard back about that also.
You'll be shocked to learn that we have not heard back yet, but we're working on it. I may follow up soon because I'm serious. I wouldn't be disrespectful if I went in the White House, but we would ask hard questions that people want to ask. We wouldn't be the fluff, Newsmax or whatever in there asking fluff. We'd be asking hard questions, and that's exactly I think why they don't want us in there. And regarding Elon Musk, I think it's horrible what he's doing, and I think likely illegal. I don't think he has the authority to do what he's doing. I like to see that these federal courts are pushing back and fighting back, but he's destroying so much so quickly right now that he's always 1 to 10 steps ahead of the check on him. And so, to all the federal employees out there, I just want you to know, like, we have so much respect for what you do, and we have your back, and we're going to do what we can, and try to hold the line, as much as you can, because we need you there. We really need you there, and don't let Elon, scare you out of you doing the work that makes our country run.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so well said. My dad was a federal employee for years, and the way they're talking about federal employees is like atrocious to me. So against American workers, for sure. They're vital American workers. Well, thank you, Brett, for taking the time. I mean, honestly, we really need your ability to package important information in a way that people will be wanting to get it, because there's so much right now. So grateful to be involved in MeidasTouch, and grateful that you package my videos in a way that helps get the word across. So I know you got a lot to do, lots more to edit and lots more videos, but so great that you took the time. I was so interested in how that all came about in the beginning. So I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Dina. Thanks again for all your contributions to the network. Thanks for interviewing me. Hope I didn't disappoint. And thank you to everybody out there. Thanks to all the Midas Mighty. Everybody, hold your head strong. Like our community, I see the energy that we have. I mean, the fact that we are the #1 news podcast right now, breaking through beyond, all the MAGA podcasts, through the Joe Rogans, all of that, it shows that people are fired up. It shows that people are fed up. It shows that people are angry. So let's keep our voices loud. Let's stay loud. Let's stay engaged, and let's fight. We're not going to take this standing down.
Yes. So we need to hear that. So until next time.
Thank you, Dina.
Okay, thanks.
Can't get enough Meidas? Check out the Meidas Plus Substack for ad-free articles, reports, podcasts, daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, and more. Sign up for free now at MeidasPlus.com.